Hello and welcome back, everyone, to the Business Thinking Podcast. I'm Joe, and Neil's out today, so it's myself taking control for once, dangerously, and joined here by Alex, fabled and common co-host of this podcast.
Hello, I've always been here.
He's always been here, never left. And anyway, today we are going to be talking about SQL. Yes.
Just all of SQL?
All of SQL.
All of SQL, right.
This is an hour and a half long podcast. We start from the beginning, back in the 60s.
Excellent.
Yeah. So we'll just, generally talk about SQL, and we're going to say about, our preferred sort of formatting and how that all works. So I'll let you start. Did you know, so what should we start with? Should we go?
I mean, I've always been very particular about my formatting, and I'll be honest, I'm not sure if it fits any particular standard, but I like my SQL the way I like it.
You like your SQL the way?
Same way I like my coffee.
Oh, in the morning. Only your SQL in the morning.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, okay, what you mean. So when you say format, so I've got a very particular sort of way I think of it going where, you got the select and you've got the little, you go down and you got the from, and then you go to your first join, usually an inner join or some sort, and
I indent my joins.
I was going to get to the indenting of the joins on the on.
Sorry, I've skipped ahead.
On the on, I will always go down a line and then indent, so it's part of the join. It's all very prescribed.
It's like nesting in any other programming language. But I mean, it's a contentious topic, but people hate, it's a bit of a difference.
Strong.
The meaningful white space in Python, for example. But I really like it because I like to indent under, if statements and things like that anyway. Yeah,
you write in a lot of different languages, though. You often write a lot of your stuff in Python as well, and SQL, and I know like YAML and other things as well. You've got plenty of languages under your belt, whereas I focus mostly on SQL. But I must admit, everyone's like, there's like especially with like DVT as well, there's the tabs versus spaces. Ooh. And I must admit, I've never fully understood why that's a thing.
We're going to have a war in the comments, aren't we, Jay?
Yeah, I hope so. So, what is the real difference between, is there any functional difference really between a tab and space beyond it creating weird white space?
As far as I'm aware, there's the history behind why tab, why white space, and why white spaces are generally better.
Yeah.
Is because it's all about text editors and what's going to be reading that text. Okay. It's all text at the end of the day. That's all code is. It's just some text. It just, takes an interpreter and a compiler to make it mean anything.
Yeah.
So if you open it in a notepad, if you open it in, your favorite IDE, potentially they're all going to read it differently. And especially if you're going cross operating system, or if you're reading it in GitHub versus reading it on your desktop, or even on your phone if you're, insane.
Sorry, I actually I've not told this before, but I only code on my phone inside the note on my iPhone.
I knew someone at uni who couldn't afford a laptop, but fair enough, and they had to code on their phone.
That's awful.
They submitted all their assignments from their phone.
I have to congratulate that person. If you're out there and listening to this, well done.
They passed. They got their degree.
I hope so.
Yeah. Anyway, back to the point.
Yes.
The whole point is that different IDEs, different editors are going to read that white space differently. So some default to reading a tab, for example, as 8 white space.
Okay.
Or some
single tab is 8 white space.
Some default to 4, which is the
common one.
The same meaningful good one. Some default to 2, etc., etc. So because all these different editors read the tab differently, if you put in 4 spaces for a tab, it has to read 4 spaces because a space is a space regardless of where you are. So if you've ever wondered why sometimes when you paste code somewhere and all the tabbing and spacing's mixed up, it's because that place that you've pasted it is reading your tabs differently because you have tabs in it, basically. So it's basically to make that text consistent across wherever you're reading it.
That is, I think I'm still shocked from the 8 spaces. Because I must admit, when I'm doing it, it's always the 4 spaces. That's the tab. 8 spaces is excessive.
I mean, so most IDEs, like PyCharm, which is our preferred one here at our Business Thinking, is it has a nice setting that's enabled by default where if you press the tab button, it will convert it to 4 spaces for you automatically.
Yeah.
Some IDEs don't have that, and it just makes it all a bit more awkward.
I know that Going away from SQL though, and again, like YAML is super particular about your spacing. Otherwise, like, nope, I refuse to read anything you've done.
Oh yeah, which is so. I mean, especially when you're in the context of DBT, it doesn't have proper YAML formatting or parsing.
It does have its own slightly different flavor, doesn't it? Right.
Oh no, so obviously you've got the DBT config files like DBT project and things like that. But then you've also got, when you do the from YAML Ginger macro, which is common when you're using things like automate DV. If your formatting in that YAML string is incorrect, it will just not be able to read it, and you get errors like undefined and things like that because it doesn't parse the YAML or do any syntax checking on the YAML, because it's technically just another string, another variable like anything else. So I've had a lot of people on Slack, and a lot of people reach out going, "Hey, my variables are all empty. What gives?" And it's basically those variables haven't been read in properly from the YAML. It's
it's awful. I mean, I love-hate relationship with it. It's so satisfying to get it right first time, especially if coming from early days doing all the lots of work. Been 4-ish years now doing a lot of DBT projects, and then finally realizing most of my problems lie in the YAML was a beautiful moment for me.
As in just like formatting issues?
Formatting, when things wouldn't be reading it. I was just like, it's just me being, it's not the code. The code's fine. It's just the fact that I've messed up the YAML.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, a weird thing about YAML is it doesn't actually care how many spaces you've used to indent under a header, as long as it's indented and as long as you're consistent with it. So you could do like 10 indents under it, 10 spaces under it, and it'd be fine most of the time. Depends on the thing that's passing the YAML though. Depends what standard you're following. It's all kinds of things. I mean, this comes back to standards, right?
Yeah.
Where obviously you got ANSI standards in SQL.
Yes, true.
Do you have any feelings about those? Strong feelings?
I am very big on ANSI standard. Now, I will say then that there are definitely some functions in like Databricks and Snowflake that obviously aren't ANSI standard. The first one that comes to mind is split part, which makes things super convenient. They're great.
It doesn't mean they're any less useful,
but
harder to translate.
Exactly. I love the fact that there is somehow this generic SQL that just kind of works everywhere. And I can't remember what it stands for now. Is it like American National Standard something? Well, it's from an institute, isn't it? So I imagine the I is for institute.
American National Standards Institute.
Could be.
We're probably very wrong.
Like we could be.
Yeah. I'll do a quick Google.
Oh well.
It's the first time we've had a phone out on the podcast.
Oh my God. We can't. We have to fact check ourselves, or we can just go along with this blatant lie.
Yeah. ANSI, American National Standards Institute.
Oh, nice.
Look at that. We were right.
Yeah, that's a first.
Yeah. So how does that compare to ISO?
I will say, I genuinely don't know a lot about ISO in the grand scheme of things. Or does ISO constitute everything that's non-ANSI, or ANSI isn't?
We were thinking about that as a title for this podcast, and we were like, that's going to be a very niche joke to land properly. So
and it also needs to be edited in like ANSI isn't. And then you can see the spelling and you can see why it may or may not be fun.
Right. So I'll be honest, and hopefully people will agree with me. If not, we'll get cancelled. But I think anyone who knows a lot about ISO standards is either very boring or it's their entire job and they have to be.
What constitutes ISO standard then? Because I know what ANSI standard is. I know how you can use triangle brackets for equals. You've got your substrings. You've got multiple different functions. Like even your common joins, obviously, they're all ANSI standard.
Yeah. Oh no. So ISO standard is just like a generic standard for all kinds of like formats and things like that. So like date formats.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, 8601 I think is like the main data format where you've got the T's and the things in the in the string format, things like that. It's not just SQL specific. It's all like formatting standards and data interchange formats and things like that.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I've heard of it in context outside of SQL, but I didn't realize there was like something specific for it inside of SQL as well.
There are some things, but it's not really specific to SQL. It's SQL. Some of SQL has meets ISO standards, but not specific to SQL.
It's just a lucky happenstance, a serendipitous moment where it all lines up perfectly.
That's a good outing for the word serendipitous.
I know.
Yeah.
I know many words. I've said many of them already.
Excellent. Brilliant.
So, for speaking of, like, you know, you mentioned, like, we were saying about joins and stuff. Like, there's the big contentious one. I know, particularly, I think it's, you know, amongst the company of, like, right joins. Right joins.
Grumble, grumble.
Grumble, grumble. You know, murmurs quietly, you know, in the background, just, you know, by the water cooler. So we've got that, but, like, what I know that all you can do is you can just reformat a left join, you know, and, you know, with the correct sort of with the correct sort of functionality around it, you can recreate a right join. Or alternatively, you can just manage the data in such a way that you never need to do a right join just by ordering your joins correctly and knowing where you're joining to and from onto. You'll never need a right join. So is there actually ever really a circumstance beyond shortcutting a left join or shortcutting a particular left join that a right join is actually superior, better?
I've never come across a significant example. No, I think the main thing about right joins is they're unintuitive. And when someone's reading code, it's very important to be intuitive and for it to make sense, right? So if you're doing a right join, immediately that's going to raise a flag potentially, or a code, what we usually call a code smell of, that doesn't seem right, that's a bit odd.
Does it come back to the fact that this is more of a general linguistics thing of how a lot of people, I mean, at least in our day-to-day work, we read left to right? And reading, going back to have a right join, you're starting at this side and then going backwards.
Yeah, I think most people would feel it was unintuitive. Of course, you've got languages that are right to left, right? So I don't know if there are any viewers here that do have a right to left language. Are right joins more intuitive for you?
Yeah, I genuinely would really love to know that, because
it's very interesting, isn't it?
I've never found a good use for a right join yet. And maybe I've missed a huge trick, so it'd be great to know.
Yeah. I'm sure our colleague Tim, who's sort of the SQL expert around our parts, may have something to say about this. He'll probably leave a comment saying, you idiots.
Idiots, you fools. How dare you even mention a right join in a sacred place?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, but I've not found an example, but it doesn't mean there isn't one.
No, exactly. No, cool. All right. I think we'll come to a close here then.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you very much, everyone, for joining. And we'll see you in the next one.
Yeah. Have a good one. Please leave a comment if you have anything to say or disagree or agree. And see you in the next one. Thank you very much.
Bye, guys.
Bye.